I'm in the northeast corner of the Yuanming Yuan gardens, which you can really divide the whole complex up into 3 areas. The through ticket that gets you into all of them is 25 yuan. And it's really a full day commitment if you want to walk around here, visit the little museums, and take a boat ride. This was the original summer palace before it was looted and burned in the Second Opium War by the Anglo-French forces. And then the new summer palace was built just a couple subway stops west of here, off line 4. You can still see some of the ruins. The wooden pavilions were made in the Chinese style, so they burned. And what was left of the Jesuit built, Jesuit contracted Qianlong Emperor European style stone buildings were largely pillaged. I think up until the 70s locals were carting away stones to use for their houses, building roads, etc. Same story you find with the Great Wall. It's not till the 70s that this falls under city and state protection. Deng Xiaoping. Mao actually told people to cart away a lot of this stuff, and a lot of it was damaged even further during the Cultural Revolution. Like when I was up at the Ming tombs this weekend, Dingling was burned during the Red Guard only in the 1960s. Same thing with the city walls around Beijing. They were left pretty much intact, or in their ruined state, until the 50s, 60s, when they started to be demolished to make way for roads, highways, etc. So it's a shame that a lot of this stuff was only lost in recent times. But it's a nice park to walk around. There's plenty of greenery. There's still some lotuses in bloom, even though we're a month past the peak. You can take a boat through all these little moats. They have a couple different options for boat hire. And little museums like this that help you interpret. There's not a lot of English though, so you need to have an idea of what you're looking at beforehand, or you're going to kind of be totally lost. But it doesn't take a genius to see that this is a Western style building built in the mid-empire style that was popular in the middle 19th century. There's one there. There's a garden maze. There's another one on the other side like it. Most of the ruins that are the ruined columns and all that stuff that the Western tourists come to see are over in this area, as I understand it. But I haven't gotten over here yet. There's a couple temples even in the park still to see. So you just kind of have to get here early. There's plenty of food walking around. They're selling corn cobs and hot dogs and water and candy. So plenty of that to eat. You don't have to pack your book bag or anything. So look, he's got his helmet. He's the emperor. He's Puyi. You know, it shows you that it should have been a clue to the Chinese, Qing. I didn't say the Chinese. You distinguish the peasant class from the inept Qing government. Black Swan viewing area and the east entrance. So the Qing government refused to engage with the British when they came to trade in Guangdong province over in what's now Guangzhou, Wampo Bay area, where all the British, French East India companies built their warehouses to trade for silk, tea, porcelain. And at first the Qing government said, well, we got to huge trade surplus. We're selling you all this stuff. You know, you're giving us silver for it. We don't need to negotiate. It's great for us. But then the British got smart and started bringing opium over from India to reverse the trade imbalance, and they were very successful in it. They addicted 2 million Chinese to opium, and all of a sudden the trade imbalance reverses, and all the silver's flowing out of the coffers of the Qing state coffers. So what do? They try to go to war, and that doesn't work out well because they don't modernize. Japan very quickly learned that to do war with the West, they'd have to become an imperial power, and they throw off the feudal system of the Bakufu and reinstall the emperor, who was still at the head but had a nominal role. Move the capital to Tokyo, or leave it in Tokyo, I guess, at that point, as it was under the Bakufu. But they develop a lot of the Western institutions, especially the military-industrial complex in Japan. They don't do that here in China. They don't develop a military-industrial complex until World War II to fight the Japanese, and largely then it was a war of attrition and overextension on the Japanese part. If it weren't for Lend-Lease and the Burma-India theater, Japan probably would have been able to hold on to China. So, there's one. There's one there. Black swan. Let's see if people are going to feed them, if they'll come over. Maybe someone will throw them some food. So they're building nests there, huh? That's their nest. So this summer palace gets burned and looted, and what do the Qing high-ups do? Rebuild it just west of here instead of saying, let's take that money. You know, the famous example is a stone boat at the summer palace that Taoist Emperor Shiji was supposed to use to modernize the Chinese Navy, but instead she spends it... Yeah, here it comes. Instead she spends it on a stone boat to decorate her garden, which does nothing for anybody. She could have built a battleship with it. But the real crime is that they rebuilt the summer palace at all. That should have been their second wake-up call, the defeat in the second Opium War, to take that money and spend it on something else. He knows where his bread is buttered. Duck, ducky, ducky, goose, goose, ducky, ducky. The black swan with the red beak. He's got a red tag on his foot there. He's got a little white on his beak too, and a little fluff of white on his back. I don't know if that's the edge of his wings that have white or his tail feathers. Very graceful, huh? Ah, he's coming for the food.
王师伯，你别动它，你下坡的，你别动。你让它吃东西啊，给你也照。你别动，王师伯脸转过来，让你爸给你照张相，给黑天鹅合个影。你看他干嘛呢，儿子？你别动他，儿子。哎，看金鱼来了，金鱼。
He likes to have his dry meal there with a little bit of water. And then the fish are smart. Look at all the fish that come around to eat the leftovers.
哦，它一吃小鱼儿过去。
The koi fish.
大鱼你吃。个草。
喂，那是那个剩一盘食，在那里吃，在那里吃食。
大金。
He's full. He's had enough.
停啊停啊，别下去。
在边上啊。王世博丢一下。王世博你上来。
我上。
严子静别下去啊。
我不下去。
王世博你起开。王世博。
I don't think he wants that. He wants the food.
我有胃。
At the zoo yesterday, you know, it's real fun to visit Chinese zoos because there's a very casual attitude towards the animals. People bring heads of lettuce and grapes and things to feed the animals, either directly, hand to mouth, or they'll throw it into the cages. In the case of the monkeys, a lot of the time. So it's more fun, I think, to visit zoos here because you can interact with the animals. They're not so uptight. People pick grass and feed it to the animals, and the animals expect it, you know, so they come up when they see you approach with food.
他是不是想把鱼引来呀？
好，严子静走了。
还要看。
好了。
他不能看。
看鱼，我的个天！
老公不能看。
喝水是不是？怎么喝水的？大车有水的啊！
我的天哪！
That was good. I got to see a, you know, it was 70% chance of rain today. I didn't know if I would do anything outdoors, but I thought, well, this will be a good option because if it's raining cats and dogs, I can go to the Sackler Museum at the university and go to the traditional summer palace. The major site is the new summer palace, which is just called the Summer Palace. And there's a lot of indoor-outdoor stuff there. Although it's nice to do that on a clear day because supposedly when you climb Longevity Hill, there's a good view of Beijing. But you don't get a whole lot of clear days. We had some really good ones when I first got here. And unfortunately, I was unprepared to take advantage of them by going to see the viewing spots. That's the nature of visiting a place for the first time. You may want to spend that day at the National Museum, you know. But I won't complain. I got out to Hebei province to hike Jinshanling to Simita West on a very clear day. Probably the clearest day we've had. So I got the Great Wall at some of its most rugged, and they just reopened that section of the wall. They're still working on it. In fact, I had to hike off the wall and around the ridge between three of the towers that they're still working on there. So I've got to see some of it at its pristine, restored, but not overly done like Badaling's section of the wall is, you know. So I won't complain. Shi Yang Lu, and they've got the picture there of the In the metro stop, you see some of those they have. In the metro stop, it's really nice. If you watch my first video. The Lion's Grove and the Lotus viewing area are not too far either. So we'll come back this way maybe. But I want to check out those ruins first. They give you the Pinyin translation, but that doesn't help you a whole lot sometimes. You gotta have an idea of what you're looking for, and the guidebook didn't give me a whole lot of help. I did take photos of the DK. In fact, I should look through the DK version and see if it helps. Let's see. Yeah. Yuanming Yuan. Garden of Perfect Brightness, sometimes called Old Summer Palace, now its isolated main summer palace, but was a collection of princely gardens fused into the main mass by the Qing Qianlong Emperor in the mid-18th century. He commissioned Jesuits at his court to design and construct a set of European-style buildings in one corner, which they liken to Versailles. Unfortunately, all the traditional Chinese halls were burned down by the British and French troops during the Second Opium War in 1860. Later, the European-style buildings were pulled down and much of the remains carted away by locals for building purposes. Chinese narrations of the devastation criticized both marauding European troops and the ineffectual Qing rulers. Today, Yuanming Yuan is a jumble of sad yet graceful fragments of stone and marble strewn in the eternal spring garden in the park's northeastern corner. So that's where we are now. A small museum displays images and models of the palace depicting its scale and magnificence. The palace maze has been recreated in concrete to the west of the ruins. The rest of the park is a pleasant expanse of lakes, pavilions, gardens, and walks. So I guess what I was saying about the ruins being the, that's a great bell hall. Remnants of Yuanming said to resemble Versailles, once in their pristine state, huh? I thought they were more over towards the west side, the ruins. In the northern part of Changchun Yuan once stood a European-style garden commonly called Shiyanglu, European buildings. Shi is west, so towers of the west, I think they're saying. Towers, buildings of the west. Lu is tower. What's Yang? The 70,000 square meter garden had over 10 buildings and courtyards respectively called Shi, Xie, Qi Chu, Xian Fa Qiao, Huang Hua Zhen, Yang Chu, Yang Chue Long, Fang Wai Guan, Hai Yan Tang, Yuan Guan, Da Shui Fa, Guan Shui Fa, Xian Fa Shan, Xian Fa Hua. Planning began 1747, the 12th year of the reign of Emperor Qianlong, and construction was largely completed in 1759, 24th year of the reign of Emperor Qianlong. You know, someone has to explain to whoever does these translations, you can't just hyphenate a word wherever you want. It has to be at a syllable. At the end of a syllable is where you hyphenate. It was designed under the guidance of Italian painter Giuseppe Castiglione and French missionary Michel Benoist, and was built by Chinese craftsmen. The architectural style was Baroque, and the landscaping was Le Notre. Its landscaping and architectural decorations also embodied lots of traditional Chinese techniques. In its heyday of Shiyanglu, the Qing Imperial Court made a set of copper plates comprising 20 elevation perspective architectural drawings drawn by Yi Lan Tia, Li Yan Ti, and Imperial Court painters from the Man ethnic group. Manchu is the group that the Manchu belonged to, that or the dynasty of the Qing. These copper plates were carved by the craftsmen of the Imperial workshop. In 1860, the Allied forces, Britain and France, burnt Yuanming Yuan to ruins. Most of these European-style halls and pavilions partially survived because they had been mainly built with stone materials. They continued to stay there for a century, reminding people of the national humiliation. So here's Fenghe, that's a square garden or square pool thing. Xianfangshan, and these are all the buildings. So it's kind of like a linear thing here. So I bought my ticket, but the lady clipped the two of them, when I went into the model area. She tore off both. I don't know why. Xia Yanglu area and east entrance. So I think I'll wander around here through the Lion's Grove real quick. I'm curious to see how it compares to Shijilin and Suzhou. Says it's back down this way though. I should have walked through it then. I don't think you can get out to Jade Delicacy Lodge. Maybe you have to take a boat there. I don't see any ways to get out there on my Galileo map. And I'm not recording? When did this stop recording? Damn it. You know, when I open up the picture app, a lot of times it stops recording. I don't know why it does that. It really messes itself up though, Galileo, when I open up pictures to read them. So stupid. I hate that. So I'll walk this way anyway and go through the ruins here, make a loop by the east gate. Might as well, since I stopped recording. Stupid piece of junk that it is. So we'll do this and then come back around the top. I think what I'm thinking that they call the Lion Grove here is similar to Suzhou. By lions, they're referring to the grotesque rock garden. Shijilin is a rockery in Suzhou, one of the UNESCO World Heritage Gardens of Suzhou that Suzhou is famous for. And the way they put together the rocks kind of look like, there's a thing in Buddhism like the Hall of 10,000 Lions and all that kind of stuff. They guard the Buddha. Lion can be a symbol of the Buddha, so it's wrapped up a little bit in Buddhist iconography. But it is annoying to have that turn itself off. Now it's 1 o'clock. So I'll probably have spent all day here, which is okay. Not the best air quality day anyway to do anything that's real scenic. Although I hate being outside when it's like this. I'm wearing my mask, but still. Stone Arch Bridge with, looks like dragon pendant stylobates here. Amazing that it's still standing. Shows you how strong arches are, huh? It's kind of neat too to see the arch by itself. You know, usually it's all piled up. Look at this rubble. People just came and took what they wanted up till like 45 years ago. They're just coming over here and give me this, give me that. Around 1970 is when they all start to get protected. The arch is incredibly strong. Looks like they've put this back together recently though. I see some cement in there, I think. Yeah. There's another one over there. I think they've redone redid these. Partially restored. So that was a treat. We got to see the black swan. Down to 20% battery. Let me turn my battery jacket on. You know, last night when I was researching the iPhone 6, I wondered if Mophie site said anything about when they're going to come out with a case for it. So I went to their site and I saw a case that is not only a battery jacket case, but provides you with additional memory so that you can store songs and shit on your phone, you know, like extra room for storing data. And I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. So you could get away with buying a lesser gigabyte model maybe or something of the newer phone or whatever. I don't know if I want the new iPhone 6 Plus. It's pretty big. I don't think I'll have a problem holding it in my hand, 'cause they say if you're a tall person that that's not an issue, because your hands are big enough. If you're over like 6'2", you should be fine. But the camera doesn't sit flush, and even with the battery jacket, the camera will be just flush with the battery. So I'm going to get fingerprints all over the camera and scuff it up. So it won't matter how good the camera is and how many lenses it has if the outside lens is all scuffed up and dirty all the time. I already carry a man purse, so I don't care about that. It's going to go in here, and instead of having this guidebook, it's going to go right in there. But that means my umbrella and everything else is going to be scratching the lens the whole time. Do I really want to have to keep it in like a silk pouch because it's not a recessed camera? You know? Or I'll have to get an extension for this and put it in here. I'll work it out. I'm going to spend the winter again in Hong Kong. So that's a good place to shop for cheap stuff. I think it's actually cheaper now than shopping in China, mainland China, to shop in Hong Kong. I'll go over to Mongkok Market, and I should be able to find another man bag like this, over the shoulder bag, that'll fit the 6 Plus in its phone pocket. Because this one, this extra one, I use a 2-phone system, you know, and this one barely fits the iPhone 6 in it. So if I keep my 2-phone system, I'm going to need another bigger pocket for the 6 Plus so that I can use a main compartment for my lunch and my umbrella. Xianfahua, located at the eastern tip of Xiyanglu area, the main site of Xianfahua was the 7 outflanking broken walls diametrically arranged on the east bank of the Fanghe River. The Matrix River, east of the Xianfa Hill. Look how they corrected their typo. See, it shows you if you're learning the pinyin, you got to learn that the X is a sh. You got to roll your tongue. Sh. Xia. Xiafa Hill. Xianfa Hill. These walls hang Western landscape oil paintings. On these walls hang Western oilscape land paintings. Looking east from Xianfa Hill, west of the Fanghe River, these paintings constituted the perspective view of Western urban dwellings. This site was also called the Xianfa Wall. It was alleged that Emperor Qianlong once hung the landscape paintings of the streets of Arkshu region in Xinjiang, in order to please the wrong concubine, fragrant concubine. So that's the hall they built for the Muslim concubine that I read about in the guidebook. So the northeastern. Why was I thinking it was the northwestern section of the park? Lion-headed fountain. Then they found these screens on Peking University in the 70s. Move them back here, huh? The Haiyantang Reservoir. have a tower for storing the water. I didn't look for that on the model. I don't know if they showed it. Now, are these lotuses? Because I thought these were lotuses, but they might just be the flowers of lilies. Lily pad flowers. I thought they were lotus flowers, but maybe they're not. Those might just be lily pad flowers. Now if I exit here, I don't know if they'll let me back in at the east gate with my ticket. Usually pretty nice about it for foreigners. Park tour guide. You can get an audio guide, huh? Huh. They have English, I wonder. Hand paintings. Places. English? How much? Mm-mm.
10元
10?
10元
10. Ah, I have 10. There you go. Thank you. I guess it's in Chinese, the audio guide. The hand paintings of the Garden of Perfect Brightness of the Qing Dynasty. I thought I was buying a map. We got a map on this side. Palace Gate of the Garden of the Eternal Springs. I think it's like 10,000 Springs Garden. Sometimes they call it. That's what they said in The Lonely Planet anyway. Eternal, 10,000, longevity, you know. It's the idea. So we came through these ruins. Exquisite Jade Studio. So there is a bridge to the Exquisite Jade Studio. So I came through this way. Came through the park here. And I wandered up this way. I missed spreading Spring Hill. And came up this way. Over here. And now we're here by Square Lake. Perspective landscapes. What's that? Immense Ocean Observatory, Ruin of Water Towers. That's where the water tower was. Throne for watching fireworks, Hall of National Peace, 5 bamboo pavilions, Feng Waiguan Mosque. That was the Concubines Mosque. Yellow Flower Maze. Wonderland of Square Pot. Immortal Abode on the Fairy Island. Sea of Blessing. Rear Lake. Most Kind and Eternal Blessing. Northwest of downtown Beijing, 1707, 6th-year Emperor Kangji's reign. So it was under Kangji, so... I thought 12th century originally laid out. Notre Dame Cathedral in France. Could not match the grand and magnificent Oriental Museum. So they had an Imperial Museum here that Victor Hugo wrote about. Hall of National Peace. Largest one of the Western style tower complexes. Foreign tributes on display. Cultural communication between two countries. Which way did I fold this? Wrong? Fold it this way, huh? That'll do her. Can I go out this way? So this brings me back out to the ticket booth. If you're coming in from the east, doesn't look like there's much to see out here. I was curious what was here. Just a toilet, really, and some ruins. Hopefully they won't hassle me about going back through since my ticket's been clipped. Let's see. These look like bracket lintel. These were probably lintels, I guess. It would have went into a column here. Sad. It's in a sad state. But the Western powers are largely the ones who started the decay, so process of ruin. A lot of the Western architecture that you see in China is in the Baroque style because that was the style that was popular in Europe at the time that the Western concessions started to be built. For instance, when you go to the Shikumen houses in Shanghai, they are a blend of Chinese traditional housing and townhouses from Europe, and they have Baroque capitals over the door, the scrolly style pediment over the doorway. So this is a square lake. I guess you can't get around to the other side of it. Let's see. So that's the east gate. Come on. Square River. So now we'll go through the proper section here, the western area. Why did I think it was in the northwest? I guess the western ruins, the ruins of the western style buildings are in the northeast corner, and I was thinking to myself, they're western buildings and they're in the northwest. And this is the area that they call the Old Summer Palace here, in this section of the park. So that made sense to me that it would be over there, but it's not. They're over here in the northeast corner, but you can walk around this area. So there. So I think I'll label this track, since it stopped recording anyway, right? I'll put that in purple, and then we'll know from now on that that's the main attraction area. I try to use purple. European ruins. I'll find out the proper name for them later. I think the best way to label stuff for like my YouTube videos is put the English name in, and then in parentheses, for things that are like temples and monuments, you should include the Chinese pinyin name if you can in parentheses, so that you learn a little bit, you know, and that it has its proper name, because the proper name is really not the translated name, it's the name that you have for it in its native tongue. Lonely Planet's a British company. Sometimes you'll see them call theaters, like the Red Theater, they'll spell it the British way. But the way to really spell it, because in China they'll use the American English version, you know. So you can get a little thrown off by that, you know. Sometimes they will use the proper spelling of the way that they spell it in the host country, but then they'll refer to it as a theater in the description, RE, you know. So we did the panorama model. Now we're headed into the ruins proper. So that's why she clipped off too at the panorama model. I was worried that they'd say, "Where's your other ticket for this part?" But they didn't give me a hard time. So we did this. So I roughly followed the route that I should have. Here on the back of the ticket. And you want to make a loop around here if you can. Couple more loops. I'd like to take a boat ride too, that'd be nice. One of the best day trips I think I took in China, well, there's a couple of them, the water towns, they're all quite pleasant. Some I like better than others. Zhujiajiao is a nice one to go to in Shanghai. So is Qibao. So do 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 do. I can taste you on my lips and smell you in my clothes. There they are. So those are the ruins of what they compare to Versailles, the Versailles of the East, I've heard it called. I'm going to start a new video here. And they were very successful in it. They addicted 2 million Chinese to opium. And all of a sudden the trade imbalance reverses and all the silver's flowing out of the coffers of the Qing state coffers. So what do? they try to go to war, and that doesn't work out well because they don't modernize. Japan very quickly learned that to do war with the West, they'd have to become an imperial power, and they throw off the feudal system of the Bakufu and reinstall the emperor, who was still at the head but had a nominal role. Move the capital to Tokyo, or leave it in Tokyo, I guess, at that point, as it was under the Bakufu. But they develop a lot of the Western institutions, especially the military-industrial complex in Japan. They don't do that here in China. They don't develop a military-industrial complex until World War II to fight the Japanese, and largely then it was a war of attrition and overextension on the Japanese part. If it weren't for their houses, building roads, etc., same story you find with the Great Wall. It's not till the 70s that this falls under city and state protection. Deng Xiaoping. Mao actually told people to cart away a lot of this stuff, and a lot of it was damaged even further during the Cultural Revolution. Like when I was up at the Ming tombs this weekend, Dingling was burned during the Red Guard only in the 1960s. Same thing with the city walls around Beijing. They were left pretty much intact, or in their ruined state, until the 50s, 60s, when they started to be demolished to make way for roads, highways, etc. So it's a shame that a lot of this stuff was only lost in recent times. But it's a nice park to walk around. There's plenty of greenery. There's still some lotuses in bloom, even though we're a month past the peak. You can take a boat through all these little moats. They have a couple different options for boat hire. And little museums like this that help you interpret. There's not a lot of English though, so you need to have an idea of what you're looking at beforehand, or you're going to kind of be totally lost. But it doesn't take a genius to see that this is a Western style building built in the mid-empire style that was popular in the middle. It should have been a clue to the Chinese, Qing, I didn't say the Chinese, to distinguish the peasant class from the inept Qing government. Black Swan viewing area and the east entrance. So the Qing government refused to engage with the British when they came to trade in Guangdong province over in what's now Guangzhou, Wampo Bay area, where all the British, French East India companies built their warehouses to trade for silk, tea, porcelain. And at first the Qing government said, well, we got a huge trade surplus. We're selling you all this stuff. You know, you're giving us silver for it. We don't need to negotiate. It's great for us. But then the British got smart and started bringing opium over from India to reverse the trade imbalance. I'm in the northeast corner of the Yuanming Yuan gardens, which you can really divide the whole complex up into 3 areas. The through ticket that gets you into all of them is 25 yuan. And it's really a full day commitment if you want to walk around here, visit the little museums, and take a boat ride. This was the original summer palace before it was looted and burned in the Second Opium War by the Anglo-French forces. And then the new summer palace was built just a couple subway stops west of here, off line 4. You can still see some of the ruins. The wooden pavilions were made in the Chinese style, so they burned. And what was left of the Jesuit Jesuit contracted Qianlong Emperor European style stone buildings were largely pillaged. I think up until the 70s locals were carting away stones to use for 19th century. There's one there. There's a garden maze. There's another one on the other side like it. Most of the ruins that are the ruined columns and all that stuff that the Western tourists come to see are over in this area, as I understand it. But I haven't gotten over here yet. There's a couple temples even in the park still to see. So you just kind of have to get here early. There's plenty of food walking around. They're selling corn cobs and hot dogs and water and candy. So plenty of that to eat. You don't have to pack your book bag or anything.
听着来，这牌你们打开看一下，就是原来原名原著的皇帝令人知道，世界已经变了。
那是游戏卡牌，看。
So look, he's got his helmet. He's the emperor. He's Puyi. You know, it shows you that